Welcome back to Talking Sports with Brandon. This is the Week 13 NFL recap video. I always say this every video, but if you haven't checked out our previous videos, definitely check them out. You'll see the preview to this week, which we made our 5 picks, which we're about to go over. Also talked about some really good matchups from this week between some of the potential powerhouse or at least serious contenders for the AFC and NFC. So really good talk on the last video, but here we are. So obviously all the games happened. The Monday night game was last night between the Bucs and the Saints, which we'll probably end up talking about. That was a pretty ugly game, but I guess also exciting as well. But we're gonna start with my 5 picks, and we'll move from there. We'll talk about some other games as well, and just other things that went on this week and stuff that will matter for the future and potential playoff runs. So we did have some big moves or potential just big injury / news stuff that did happen this week. But we'll start with the first game. So Browns Texans. I took Browns -7. Deshaun Watson's return to football, but then on top of that, return to the team that he obviously was drafted by and became the player that he became on in Houston as well. This game, I did get the win on this pick, but the the Browns offense didn't even score a touchdown in this game, and they covered. So that just kind of shows it really wasn't that good of a pick. It just somehow worked out. They went 27-14. Watson really wasn't that good. I was talking about it. I said I don't expect him to be Deshaun Watson in his first game back. He's going to take some time. It may not even be this season that he really looks like Deshaun Watson. Maybe there'll be a couple of glimpses or a couple moments, couple throws, couple plays, but I don't think he's ever going to be able to put 4 quarters together this season where he looks like Deshaun Watson. It's just, he didn't play football for basically 2 years. It's just not, you just can't come right back and look as good as you did before. So, he was only 12 of 22, 131 through the air, 1 interception, no touchdowns. He had a lot of throws that he missed. He was, even if they were catching the ball, it was a low throw, it was a high throw, it wasn't on his body. So he just didn't look comfortable. His one pick was just awful. He had pressure in his face, but he kind of just threw it, and he threw it right at a defender. It was just in the red zone as well. That was a potential chance for a touchdown or at least points at that point in the game. Because they did find themselves down 5-0 because of his safety. So it really wasn't that impressive, and it was a close game throughout, to be honest. The defense and the special teams is what saved the Browns. The defense and special teams combined for 3 touchdowns. It was a pick 6, a fumble recovery that happened right at the 3-yard line. The Texans were trying to get out of their own end zone. Basically, they fumbled it, and the Browns picked it up for a touchdown. And then they also got a punt return touchdown. So the 27 points, 21 of them came from that. Then obviously 2 field goals. So it was, definitely not a good offensive performance, and it helped that they were playing the Texans in this one that are just awful. They're just such a bad team. Any other team, they probably don't even win this week, but hey, they're 5-7. Again, you're assuming that Watson's going to just get gradually better each game. Can that lead you to a possible playoff appearance that we talked about in the last episode? I said I think it's still an outside shot, but it's potential. They play the Bengals this week. That's going to be tough. They play the Ravens the week after that. We'll talk about the Ravens in a little bit. Then Saints, Commanders, Steelers. So the potential, the path is there, but you really need Watson to look a lot better because the defense isn't going to be able to do this every game. It's not that good of a defense. You're not going to play the Texans every game. You're not going to get a punt return, a pick 6, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. It's just not going to happen. So we'll see. I think there's potential, but if you lose this week to the Bengals, then you go back to 5-8, then you kind of have to win out. Then it would be very tough. But we'll see. It's still there. But that was the first game, so 1-0. After that is where it all goes downhill. So Titans-Eagles, I went +4.5 Tennessee. This one, and I think a lot of people had Tennessee in this game, whether it was money line or spread, because it just felt like one of those matchups where the Eagles have been up and down these last couple of weeks. Obviously, they lost the game. They had to come back against the Colts, even though they beat the Packers, and it turned out to be a kind of comfortable win. It was right there, one possession the entire game until the end. And then people were just thinking Tennessee, and I even said, Henry hasn't had a big game in a while. I think he'll have a big one. It's a tough matchup, but you need Henry to have a big game in this, and it just never happened. They lose 35-10 to the Eagles. really wasn't close. I mean, it was 7-7, it was 14-7, it was 14-10 at one point, and that was pretty much towards the end of the second quarter. But then the Eagles with 50 seconds left got a touchdown before half to make it 21-10, and then after that it was over. And, maybe this game is different. Traylon Burks, the Titans rookie, gets injured on a touchdown pass, or only touchdown of the game was from him. He got injured on that play. He was out for the game. Maybe that changes it because he is a kind of dynamic guy. He's at least a threat on the outside. Really, no one else they have is. But once he got injured, you knew that they weren't going to be able to throw the ball, and the running game just never was working. So it was a tough task as soon as you saw how the game was playing out. And the Eagles just destroyed them through the air. I mean, that's a weakness of the Titans. They didn't really run the ball, the Eagles. Again, that's their go-to. They only had 24 carries for 67 yards, but through the air they threw for 386. And that was 380 came from Hurts. So he had 3 touchdowns, no picks. Only got sacked twice, but it was for 5 yards. It's basically nothing. It's not even like real sacks. It was probably just him scrambling and just getting tackled. But this one was over pretty early. You could just tell just the way the game was going. Once the Eagles got out to a lead, there was no way the Titans could keep up with them. So, a lot of people were on the Titans. Again, I think it made sense. It seemed like a matchup that could make sense. It obviously just didn't work out. The Titans actually fired their general manager today as I'm recording this. Definitely odd timing. He obviously has been pretty successful. I think he came in 2016, and since then they've been one of the most consistent teams in terms of wins. It's been basically 8 to 9 plus wins each season, and I know they play in an easy division, but that's still pretty impressive. And they've beaten big teams. They played the Chiefs in the playoffs. They can beat the Chiefs. They played the Bengals. Like, they can beat big teams. They have done it before. They've beaten the Ravens. Obviously when Lamar was in his MVP season. So they've shown that they've been a pretty consistent winning team over these last handful of years. But it must be something else because at this late in the season, at this point, you're 7-5 still. You're still going to win that division pretty easily. It's definitely odd. It's got to be something else. Whether it was, I think I saw maybe something of this stems back from the A.J. Brown trade. Obviously, this was his revenge game here. It wasn't in Tennessee, but it was still a revenge game, and he had a great game. But it maybe stems from that because Vrabel didn't want to trade him, but the GM did trade him. And obviously, as you could see, if they had an A.J. Brown, and of course, when he played, he was great, but he just definitely struggled with being healthy. But when he was on the field, that's what made their offense a little bit more explosive because the play action works better. The run can work better because if the passing game is working, you at least got to respect it. You got to double someone. You got to put someone else out there. You have to take someone out of the box. Then Henry can really move. But just not having that outside threat, someone who could really threaten the defense on, lined up outside. It's just, you just go all in on the run and have them try and beat you from, throwing the ball. It's just not going to happen. So he was fired. And again, it's got to be stemming from that, other things accumulating, and also maybe just something else as well. But that was the second game. So I'm 1-1 in the week. Third game, Commanders, Giants. It ends in a tie. 20-20, they tie. The Commanders were up 10-0 in the first quarter. It really looked like, I didn't think they were going to blow them out, but it really looked like, they were just proving that they were the better team, which I think they honestly are. I think they are a better team than the Giants. But Giants come back, make it 10-10. Then it's 13-13 going at the half. Giants actually get an early touchdown in the third quarter, and it stays 20-13 all the way up until 1:45 left in the game, until Washington ties it 20-20. Giants obviously had a chance to go down and maybe get a game-winning field goal at the punt. Washington gets a chance to get a game-winning field goal. Actually moved the ball a little bit, but never got really into field goal range. Then it goes into OT, and obviously no one scores. That's why it was a tie. Giants did have a game-winning field goal attempt in OT, but it was from like 57, 58, something like that, and came up short. So it was a tie. This one looked like a win. Like, I was looking at my 1 o'clock games, and it was obviously the first 3 that I've said. I knew Titans-Eagles wasn't going to hit. Browns-Texans, it did end up hitting, and it looked like it was going to, but it looked like I could go 2-1 in these 1 o'clock games because this one looked like it was going to. And then Washington's offense, after the first quarter, just didn't do anything. I mean, they just couldn't move the ball. It wasn't like they were turning the ball over. I mean, Heineke really wasn't that bad. 275, 2 touchdowns. They ran for over 100 on the ground. Like, they ran for 165 on the ground. Like, I don't really know. They could move the ball, but then it would stall, and then they had to punt. It was kind of just a back and forth game. The defenses were kind of not dominating, but just controlling the game after that first quarter. From the second to basically the fourth quarter, they were just controlling that entire game. So, yeah, it ends in a tie. They're both now Washington 7-1, 7-5-1, and the Giants are 7-4-1. So a tie really didn't hurt either of them because obviously a loss would have, Washington could have been 7-6, or Giants could have been 7-5, and then obviously the other one would already have the win. They play together. They play again in Week 15, so that's a big matchup. That's actually a Sunday night game now. It got flexed into Sunday night, but it didn't hurt either of them that they tied, but. So it really wasn't the worst thing, but obviously you'd rather have the win. But yes, that was my third game, another loss. So 1-2. Moving to the 4 o'clock games, I went Seahawks Rams -7 Seattle. This one, the Seahawks win 27-23, but they won on a last second touchdown with 30 seconds left to DK Metcalf. It's, again, kind of surprising. Again, Rams, no Stafford, obviously Kupp, Robinson, no Aaron Donald, just so many guys injured. Now, Bryce Perkins wasn't starting this one. It was Wolford, but even still, he wasn't that good. He had 2 picks. It just, for some reason, and they really weren't like moving the ball, but they were able to run it, which they had 171 on the ground. Through the air, they didn't do anything. It was 178, but it was just all through the ground, and the Seahawks just couldn't stop them. But still surprised that they weren't able to cover it, really, truly. But, especially because they went 370 through the air, the Seahawks. 1 interception, but 3 touchdowns as well. I was just surprised they weren't able to cover it. That one hurt because I don't know if that was my most confident one. It probably was because it's just such a beat-up Rams team. The team is playing so bad. Seahawks needed a win. They lost 2 in a row, played pretty ugly in those games. Really needed a win. It's kind of a good game to get. Division opponent as well. So I was really expecting this one to get a win in. The fact that we didn't just hurt this week. Because if this one was a win, then we're 2-2 so far with the last game good to go. It just, it makes me feel good. But obviously we lost. We're 1-3. Last game of the week, Chiefs-Bengals. I went Chiefs -2.5. I thought they could break the mini curse that they have, I guess, against the Bengals, but it wasn't true. Didn't even win the game. They lost 27-24 to the Bengals. Bengals are 8-4. Chiefs are 9-3. Bills moved back into the number 1 spot in the AFC now because of that, because the Dolphins lost as well to the Niners. We'll talk about that right after this, but and obviously the Chiefs lost. So this one, again, it's just, when I talked about the game, I said, I know the Bengals have beat them, obviously, last year at the end of the season and then in the playoffs, and you're playing them again so far this season, and it just, the Chiefs beat the Titans earlier this season. Now, Tannehill wasn't playing, but they were able to kind of beat them, a team that's kind of handled them in the regular season, at least the last couple of years. And now the Bengals have beat them 2 times in a row, one in Kansas City, one in Cincinnati. I just thought the Chiefs would come out and win this game, but they just didn't. The Bengals made way more plays. Mahomes wasn't great, 16-27, 223, 1 touchdown. Kelsey really didn't do anything. He actually fumbled in this game in a big spot because I'll try and find exactly where it was that fumble did happen, but it's 24-20 Kansas City. They just let up a field goal to make it 24-20, and the fourth quarter just started, and the pass was actually it was a 20-yard gain, and Kelsey fumbled. Let's say they just get a field goal on that drive, maybe kill a little bit more time. It comes down to about 12 minutes left on the clock, whatever it is. It's 27-20 though, so you're up a full touchdown at this point. And from that fumble, the Bengals went down, scored a touchdown. Chiefs get the ball back and miss a field goal. It was a 55-yard field goal. They miss it. And it was just one of those games where it seemed like the Chiefs probably should have won. They were probably getting outplayed. Like, if the Chiefs won, you would have said they won, but they definitely got outplayed. How'd the Bengals lose this game? But at that point, up until the fumble, they should have won this game. Because, like I said, that was a 20-yard gain. They're basically at midfield when that fumble happens. They're most likely getting 3 points, at least pinning them all the way back, if anything. And then who knows at that point. But, a fumble and a missed field goal, you don't really see that from the Chiefs that much, especially Kelsey on a fumble. But it was just they just didn't make the plays they had to make, and the Bengals were the ones making them. Burrow had a really good game. And, 286, 2 touchdowns, made big throws when he had to. The run game was really working, 150 on the ground for them. Burrow was using his legs as well. So he actually had a touchdown rushing as two, so he had three total. It was just a really good game, and they got Jamar Chase back in this one. The defense was making plays when they had to, so got to give credit to the Bengals. But in terms of my pick, I just thought this was going to be a game that the Chiefs would, again, they could have potentially been up 27-20 in the fourth quarter. I would have felt confident about -2.5 at that point. So unfortunate, but it put us to 1-4 in the week. So bad week after a couple of good weeks, and we're back under 500 at 30, 32-3. Only a couple weeks left in the season. I mean, this is week 13, so only a couple more left. About like a month of games left, but we're there. We're there. I'm confident we'll still be over 500 by the time the season ends, but definitely need another good week in week 14. Now, moving to other games from this week, there was two big ones, coming into this week. One of them we already talked about in the Bengals Chiefs. The other one, Niners Dolphins, and this is where the biggest injury of the week, and honestly, like, you could maybe argue the season, happened in this game, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo breaking his foot. He's out for the season, and the quarterback for the 49ers maybe could change, but for right now and for the foreseeable future, it's Brock Purdy, who was the last pick of this year's NFL draft. Actually, I mean, Garoppolo got injured pretty early in this game. I want to say first quarter. And Purdy came in. He played basically the entire game. He played really well. I mean, 210 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But he did the plays that he needed to do. He made the plays he had to make in order to win this game. I mean, the defense really stepped up. I mean, they've been sensational these last month or so. And this one, first play of the game, Dolphins got a 75-yard touchdown. I mean, first play of the game, it's a 75-yard touchdown to Sherfield. And after that, nothing. I mean, only letting up 10 more points the rest of the game, which 7 of them came on a 45-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, really, Tua threw 2 picks. I believe they fumbled. They also picked off Skylar Thompson, who came in as the backup. So they had 3 picks in the game. They also had a fumble recovery. Tua was missing guys wide open in this game. He was missing them high, missing them low. One of his picks was just way behind the guy. Like, he had a really bad game in this one. And it's weird because, again, they started off with a 75-yard touchdown first play of the game. And then Jimmy G basically gets injured only a series or 2 later. So you're thinking, we're already up 7-0. I think the Niners may have gotten a field goal to maybe make it 7-3. They did, but you're just like, all right, we're already up 7-0, 7-3, whatever it is. Jimmy G's getting injured now. He started off hot, and then after that first play, I think he missed like 5 of his next 6 throws or something. So, and he missed like Waddle for a big 25-yard catch. He missed a couple guys open. So, bad game from the Dolphins. Still 8-4, no problem, but just the kind of one you probably just want to wash away. Just get out of your memory. Don't think about it. They play the Chargers this week. Chargers are just so beat up. That should be a win, but you gotta play well in that game, no doubt. But Niners, that's the biggest question. Losing Jimmy G for the season, obviously you went in with Lance. The only reason, your only reason you're at this situation is because you couldn't trade Jimmy G in the offseason, so you have to be super thankful that didn't happen. But now that he's injured, and he's been really good so far this season. A lot of people would like to kind of pile on Jimmy G, but I think he's a solid quarterback. He obviously needs to be in the right system, needs to have the right people around him, but if he has that perfect situation for him, he can be really good. I mean, you look at just his starting record in the NFL. I think people kind of overlook that, but say the defense is really good, the weapons, the coach, whatever. But he's, so many games over 500 in his career. It's just crazy. But obviously he's not going to be in the Niners next year. He's going to be gone. But them, though, this season, it looked like they were that dark horse team in the NFC, maybe even the NFL, to win the Super Bowl, at least represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, between them, Dallas, and Philly. Obviously, it's been Philly this entire time. Dallas has had it shine as well, but the Niners, coming from the slow start, figuring the pieces out, getting Christian McCaffrey, making everything work, being healthy, they were that team that was supposed to really take control of that NFC once the playoffs started. With this injury, I think you still have to give them credit and have to trust them a little bit because it is Shanahan, it is the Niners. They still have the weapons and the offensive line and the schemes and the formations. But Brock Purdy, if he's going to be the quarterback the rest of the season into the playoffs, you can't really look at them as being that threat. I think it moves back to Philly and Dallas. I think the Niners are still in that next level. because of the team that they have, but you cannot. I mean, they'd have to win every game. I just don't trust. I think Brock Purdy's not a bad quarterback, and being in that system definitely doesn't hurt. But if he has to make throws, if you do get down in the game, if he has to make big throws or like make plays by himself, I just don't think you could trust him to do that. We'll see. Again, maybe there's Baker Mayfield got waived. They don't think that they're going to pick him up, but who knows? Maybe Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. Who knows? They give you something random. Whatever happens, if another quarterback comes in, you have to see who it is, obviously, but you maybe give him a little bit better of a chance than Brock Purdy. But I think with him now being the quarterback the rest of the season, you cannot look at them as being that dark horse threat anymore, that team that is the favorite to win the NFC. I think they slide down a slot. I think they go behind Philly and Dallas. And it's unfortunate because, you really had a real chance. It's a weak NFC, and that defense plays anywhere. And again, they still have a chance because of that defense, but you need your defense to be on point every single game in the playoffs, and you need that running game to really work. For 3 straight games, potentially 4 straight games, for that to happen to win a Super Bowl, that's asking a lot. It just really is. Without a quarterback making throws, I think we've kind of seen it. Maybe a team reach a Super Bowl, reach a championship game, but to win those games, you got to make a throw at some point, and that's what cost the Niners the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Jimmy G had to make a throw. He didn't make a throw, and they lost the game. You got to make throws in big games, and I don't trust Brock Purdy to do it. Maybe another quarterback comes in, maybe he doesn't. I don't know if I even trust that guy as well, but it's a tough loss. It's a tough blow to them because he was having a really good season, and it was definitely a chance to win the Super Bowl for them. But that's the biggest injury, like I said, of the week and potentially even the season. But just talking about other games from this week, I think we'll just kind of run through a couple of them. Steelers, Falcons, this one knocks the Falcons out of like the NFC South race. They lose to the Steelers 19-16. Bucs win this week against the Saints Monday Night Football 17-16. That one I'll talk about just right after this game because of just how bad it was, but then how, I guess, exciting the ending was. But Falcons, Mariota's been their quarterback the entire time. They drafted Desmond Ridder. I would assume that he'd be the starting quarterback. Maybe not next week because maybe they kind of technically do still have a chance. But if they were to lose next week, and let's say the Bucs win, I would see Ridder being the starter the rest of the season. They play the Saints next week. It's definitely a possible win, no doubt. But at some point, you got to play him. It's got to be once the division is over. It's technically not over yet, but it's very close to being over. And you're already a full game and a half behind the Bucs this season, and you play them in the last week of the season. By the time that comes, I think we'll be out of it. But the Bucs game, so they went 17-16. They had no business winning this game. It was 16-3 from 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter to 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Bucs offense couldn't do anything. Could not do anything at all. They looked awful. Brady threw a terrible pick. No run game for them in this one. Just couldn't do anything. The Saints defense wasn't really playing they were obviously playing well, but it wasn't like they were just completely shutting them down and just it was only 1 sack on Brady. It wasn't like, obviously they played well, but it wasn't just like a dominating performance. It was just the Saints offense couldn't score and couldn't do anything. So they let up 2 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes of the game. Seems like the Bucs play better when they're hurry up because they just seem to get open. If you remember a couple of these games, the Rams game, seems like they just win games when they have to go hurry up and play really fast. So maybe that's what they should do. But they had no business winning this game. And the Saints, it's just a terrible loss. You'll probably see Dennis Allen. It's gonna be tough for him not to be fired at the end of the season. Obviously Peyton retired. They went with Allen. He was interim. He was kind of interim a couple times. He'd been there for a while. I think Peyton kind of said, have him be the head coach. They did do a full search, but they did land on him. Who knows if it was a full search or not, but you could definitely see him being fired after the season. Just a crazy game. They should not have won that game. Ravens-Broncos. Lamar Jackson is injured for 1 to 3 weeks, they said. He said he's probably not going to play in this upcoming game. He hurt his knee in this one. Another game where the Ravens had no business winning. Like I said, the final score is 10-9. Tyler Huntley comes in. he's always played pretty well whenever he comes in. He's not that good of a quarterback, but he always plays well. He's basically just a worse Lamar. But they win with 28 seconds left on a touchdown from him. But this is just the Broncos. I mean, the defense could not have done more in this game to win it, and the Broncos, all they needed was a field goal. I mean, if they went up 2 possessions, they would have won this game. All they had to do was go up by 2 possessions, and there's no way the Ravens could have scored, 2 touchdowns or a touchdown at the field goal. And they just couldn't do it. I mean, 189 through the air, 88 on the ground. No turnovers. It's just they can't move the ball. It's crazy. I mean, I know that it's so just awful in that situation, and it's not working out, and everything's just not fitting together. But at some point, yeah, I mean, there's too many weapons on this team for this offense to be this bad. But it's been 12 games. It's just something you can't fix at this point. So that's another coach who's probably fired at the end of the season, Hackett. So he'll probably join Dennis Allen. Maybe even someone else. Who knows? But the Ravens, I mean, what a huge win, because they should have lost this game. They should be 7-5. The Bengals obviously won. They're 8-4. So that would have been a monumental loss to lose a game like this. But the fact that they won, I still don't have faith in them to win this division. I think the Bengals are clearly the better team, and now that Lamar is injured, maybe it's nothing too serious, but it's at least missing 1, maybe 2 games. He'll be hindered by the injury for the rest of the season. For an offense that's already really bad, to be honest, the Bengals will win this division. I don't see there's no doubt about that. They play each other the last week of the season, so that could be a huge game. It probably will be, but because the Ravens' schedule isn't that tough. It's Steelers, Browns, Falcons, Steelers, and then Bengals. It's not the toughest schedule, but again, with the way their offense has been playing and Lamar's injury, who knows? Who knows if they even win, how many games they win at that. But just to, go through the rest of the games, Packers win 28-19 against the Bears. Again, keeps the Packers' hopes alive, but there's nothing for them really to play for. Lions destroy the Jags 40-14. They moved to 5-7. They're in that playoff hunt. They are at 5-7. If they could win a couple more games, Lions, they play the Vikings this week. It's gonna be tough. Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers. I mean, it's not out of the question. They definitely have to win a lot of those games, but it's not out of the question for an offense that could really move the ball sometimes, and the defense has been playing way better as of late. But speaking of the Vikings, they beat the Jets 27-22. We talked about those games. And then the last game I didn't talk about was Raiders-Chargers. They win 27-20. I think this is more the Raiders team that we expected. Now they're 5-7. It just didn't happen from the early stages of the season, but I think you're seeing the team that they can be. And again, they're still dealing with injuries as well. I mean, it's really just Devontae Adams on the outside for them, but this is the team that you kind of thought they'd be. Jacobs has been amazing. Adams has still had a really good season. He's been great, to be honest. The defense has been playing better recently. Chandler Jones, I always talk about him. He did have a good game in this one, his only good game of the season, but I think he had 3 sacks. Again, that's what he does. He'll have one game where he has 3 or 4 sacks, and then the rest of the games he won't do anything. Because on the season he has 3.5 sacks, so shows you exactly that in the first 11 games he had half a sack, but they're playing better. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think people wanted McDaniels gone. One, it was never going to happen because their owner can't afford to fire a head coach, pay him, and then pay a new head coach. So that's one reason. But even if he could afford to fire him, I don't think there was ever a reason to. I think you have to give him a year or two, and I think this team will be better next year. I don't know how good it will be. I don't think it will be anything crazy. Let's see if Carr's even the quarterback anymore, but I don't think he will be. But let's say he is or isn't, and they get maybe a Rodgers or someone like that. It's got to be someone pretty good because they do have a technically win-now team, but we'll have to see what happens with them. But I think they will be, as long as they start off good next year, start off better than what they did, they'll be a better team because they're playing up to that ability now, and that's why they're 5-7. So Chargers 6-6 though. It's just too many injuries. I picked this team to win this division. I think if the injuries don't happen, I think they're in that hunt. Maybe they're not 9-3 like the Chiefs, but I think they're at worst 7-5, and I think they're probably 8-4 to be honest. But this team it's just too many injuries. It just is. We'll see what happens with Staley. If they kind of collapse, they still have a chance for the playoffs, but it's just, they play the Dolphins, like I said, this week. That's going to be tough. Titans, it's still going to be a tough game. And Colts, Rams, Broncos, you would assume they win those last 3 games. So they get you at least to 9. So you probably have to split one of these next 2 games to get to 10. But who even knows if they win those last 3? I'm saying they will because they are the better team, but who knows if they actually do. But it's just been a tough season injury-wise for them. But that was the games this week. Also, the Cowboys beat the Colts 54-19. You can check out that reaction on when I post the Cowboys video. You should probably see that the next day or 2 after you see this one. So definitely check that one out as well. But that'll be it for this video. I'll make sure, like I said, to check out the Cowboys video. Then check out the preview video for Week 14, where we'll make our 5 picks again. And then, yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.